our new pulpit, was located in the Lutton Parish Methodist Church in Lutton, England. The Lutton Parish is on the Bedfordshire Circuit, just north of London, and was established in the 1750s, at which time this specific pulpit was in use. This was built right around the turn of the 18th century, the first decade of the 1700s, and was used in the Lutton Parish Church, the Hightown Methodist Church, from the 1750s until about 2015. And specifically, it was preached out of by the Patriarch of Methodism, John Wesley. A number of times he references in his journals preaching at the Lutton Parish. But Wesley wasn't the only one that preached from it. Of course, his secretary, Thomas Coke, had preached from it numbers of times. And as it had stayed in the Lutton Parish Church all of those years, each of the conference presidents would have preached from it as well, to include Joseph Benson and John Pawson, Dr. Clark, and the list goes on, Alexander Mather, and so on. Now, one of the highlights of this piece specifically, of course, it was used by Wesley when he visited the church, and many of his leaders there as well. But in the summer of 1767, John Wesley appointed a young man to the Bedfordshire Circuit. 22 years of age, Francis Asbury was appointed to the Bedfordshire Circuit, just north of London, and of course would have traveled the circuit and used this on numbers of occasions, dozens of times, certainly in the 3.5 came after that. So Asbury, as a young man, would have used this pulpit numbers of times. And then within that decade also, the second elected bishop of the Methodist Episcopal Church would have used it as well. Richard Watcote would have used this pulpit a number of times when he was stationed on the district also. And so it's been a tremendous privilege to be able to find it. This had been kept in the Lutton Parish Church until this past year. It prior to that had stayed with the church even through a new building process in the Victorian era. The 1870s, the old church was torn down, a new church was built, and they recognized the tremendous significance of this pulpit because it had been with the original church since the beginning. And so they kept this, of course, had built a beautiful new church and set this in one of the side lecture rooms in an area similar to this with other historical artifacts related to Methodism. So in somewhat of a museum setting within the church. And the church currently has one of the third largest organs in all of England, and it's in tremendous disrepair. And so the church had been raising a couple of $100,000 in order to restore the organ that they have, and this was one of the pieces that they ended up selling to get a hold of the money. That's about it.
Very good. So are you, I've heard that you are a Wesley enthusiast. Do you collect?
I should say, yes.
Yeah?
Yes. My life has been touched tremendously by the God that Wesley served, and his teachings and doctrine have been something that I've embraced for a number of years now, and started collecting Wesleyan and other historical artifacts and documents related to church history about 6 years ago, and so this has been one of the highlights of that collecting.
We appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you.